First of all, look at the beautiful sky behind me. I mean, it has been raining consistently for a whole week. Actually, it has been raining for the whole month, but for the whole week, it did not stop. And now today that it stopped, it looks phenomenal. Beautiful sky. Okay, today I was rereading one of the books that I was reading a couple of years ago, and the book is about finance. It's about investing in the stock market. But the book starts with the first chapter where the author is talking about becoming a learning machine, where he's mentioning a lot of people, their quotes about reading and why reading is such a good thing. And so I got this inspiration to talk to you about reading, because it has been and still is a very significant part of my life. Look, we are all bound to be lonely at some point in our lives, right? Because we are social creatures. We like to be surrounded by people. But then from time to time, we get lonelier. And it can be for various reasons. Maybe you moved to a new city, a new country, or your partner just left you, or you left them, but you still feel lonely. Or you're just surrounded by people that you don't really connect with. And it is better to be alone with yourself than to be with someone who would make you feel lonelier. Because look what happens when we're feeling lonely. We're making choices that are not really very good for us, because we are prone to do that when we're alone. Like opening the fridge, eating unnecessarily, eating too much, or shopping too much, or binge watching something, or just continuously scrolling, or smoking, drinking, getting addicted to all sorts of things because we're just feeling lonely and we don't know what to do. In these scenarios, you can make books your friends. There are several benefits of reading books. But before I begin on that, I would say that if you're not used to reading books, start with something that you enjoy. Start with a story that is just enjoyable. It's just spicy enough to keep you interested in it. It's in simple language that it's very similar to, those kind of Netflix series and movies that don't have any depth, but you're not looking for anything deep. So pick books like that so that you can get into the habit of reading. And then you can let your curiosity guide you. And you will know what to read next. Also, when you're interested in a new topic in your life, it's much better to start with the textbooks on that. So if I was interested in learning about the stock market, the first thing I would do is I would buy the scriptures of this business, this field. I would not just go randomly on YouTube videos or YouTube reels. I would start with buying at least 4 or 5 books to begin with. And I think when I was interested in that, at least 40, 50 books. I read many from investors who were much before us, and that's one of the benefits of reading, is that you can make friends not only with people who are alive, but also ancient people, ancient friends that are already long dead, but their ideas are still alive. Their ways of looking at life is still alive. And even though there were so many things were so different back then, you will notice so much similarity, because human psychology is still almost the same, even though our surroundings and our technologies have evolved so much. So books give you so much more. You can not only make friends with real people, but also imaginary people. You can develop relationship with characters, and you can grow with them, laugh with them, cry with them. It is a kind of companionship that grows on you over time as you get more and more interested in reading books. Now, that book is still in my hand. If you're not interested in investing, it might not be very useful for you. But this book, it's called The Joy of Compounding by Gautam Baid. It is in 2 parts. The second part of the book actually talks about compounding and finance and investing and whatnot. The whole first part of the book is only talking about that not only that your money compounds when you invest it well, your knowledge compounds as well. if you're used to gaining more and more knowledge in life, then when new things come up to you, you have this advantage of compounded knowledge, that you are quicker at accessing that new information or that new knowledge. So I'm just gonna, because you know what, when I read, I always underline with pencils. I love doing that. I know some people don't like to touch their books at all, but I love to. When I read old books, I also love to see what other people underlined or made a note, and I think that's a very intimate relationship with the book when you start to touch it. Anyway, if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Okay, it starts by one of the things that I've underlined. It says Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger estimate that they spend 80% of their time in a day either reading or thinking about what they've read. There's another argument this guy is making. It's another person, I don't know who it is. It doesn't matter who it is, right? It says that just read 25 pages per day. Make a habit of reading 25 pages per day. Let me read you a little bit. I hope you have time, because I'm gonna just go on like this randomly. While most of us don't have the time to read a whole book in one sitting, we do have the time to read 25 pages a day. Reading the right books, even if it's a few pages a day, is one of the best ways to ensure that you go to bed a little smarter than you woke up. 25 pages a day doesn't sound like much, but this commitment adds up over time. Let's say that 2 days out of each month, you probably won't have time to read. Plus Christmas. That gives you 340 days a year of solid reading time. If you read 25 pages a day for 340 days, that's 8,500 pages. Wait for it. 8,500. What I've also found is that when I commit to a minimum of 25 pages, I almost always read more. So let's call the 8,500 pages 10,000. I only need to extend the daily 25 pages into 30 to get there. Now, with 10,000 pages a year, at a general pace of 25 pages per day, what can we do? What can get done? Well, The Power Broker is 1,100 pages. Tolstoy's two masterpieces, War and Peace and Anna Karenina, come in at about 2,160 pages, and he goes on with a few more classics and says that means in about 1 year, at a modest pace of 25 pages a day, you would have knocked out 13 masterful works and learned an enormous amount about the history of the world. In 1 year. In 1 year. Okay, I've tried that in my life. Unlike this person, I'm not able to read 25 pages a day. Sometimes it goes to 50, 60 pages a day, even 100, and then a couple of days I can't read anything at all, but I'm going to come to that as well. Let me just see if there's anything else I want to touch upon. I do want to touch upon one more thing, is that reading has different levels. First level is just like literacy. You're trying to understand what this sentence means. And then there is this analytical reading. What is this book about? What is this whole idea about? I remember when I was very young, I read the whole book. In the last video, I told you that I'm rereading 1984. When in my teenage years, when I read that book, I thought it was literally about humans and pigs and animals, and I could not really understand anything behind it. And also, I didn't ask anyone. Nobody around me reads so much, by the way, when I'm in India. If they do, which is my father, only reading religious books, and other people around me, I have never actually found people who read a lot. So I just found them in my travels here and there, and also online. Just because I mentioned reading books in the last video, someone sent an email with a book suggestion, someone commented with a book suggestion. Oh, I love that. So even if you're alone, you can have so much fun with books. So let me tell you some more reasons. I was going to tell you about this, that a time comes when in your reading you move from the literacy level to analytical level to a level where you are actually comparing, not really consciously, but it's happening, that you read 4 or 5 books on the same topic, and the knowledge kind of starts to synthesize. You start to see links between what this person said and what the other person said, and you start to ask questions to the author. Not only that, you start asking those questions, you start also answering those questions. Sometimes you answer the question, then you read further. In the next paragraph, the author has answered it. Sometimes it matches, then you have this eureka moment. Sometimes it doesn't match, gives you more questions, and you start to build a relationship with the author. Also, books, I mean, I also watch movies and different stuff from time to time, but one of the advantages of the books, if you think about it, is that you're simply reading words. You have to feel the emotions, you have to visualize the characters and the scenes and the nature and whatever is described in the book. You have to really visualize it, imagine it. Imagine the smells, imagine the feeling of being there, imagine the face of the character, the height, the weight. No matter how much the author describes the character, you will have to imagine it. So it's such a interactive process of reading a work of fiction, let's say. While when you watch the movie, everything is served to you, right? The visuals are there, the music is there, the colors are there, the forms, the shapes, the sizes, everything is there for you. But the book actually demands more from you. So it's much more interactive. You're not just passively consuming it, but actively participating in it. I'm sure many of you who love to read books will agree with me. It's not always about gaining knowledge. As I said, sometimes life is just too hard and you don't want to deal with it. Just the day is just so nice, and maybe it's raining the whole day, and you just want to drink your chai or coffee and just daydream or not deal with your problems. And if in those days you need to have a book that you can enjoy reading for 6 hours a day, then you're not going to make unnecessary phone calls, try to meet people that you don't like, and then this empties you from inside. This unnecessary meeting with unnecessary people who unnecessarily waste your time, and you waste their time unnecessarily, is just too much. So when you are making friends with books, you will see a different dynamics will develop. Okay, hold on, because I was journaling about this today, so maybe I have something else to say. Also, what I used to do is I was reading for a long time. I was reading only spiritual books, only religious and spiritual books. And there came a time when before I pick a book, I would know what's written in the book. Every argument that is made in the book, I have thought about it, I've processed, I've analyzed, I've meditated. And so it got so boring because there was nothing new whatsoever. And I was not a kind of fiction guy for many years in the beginning of my book journey. I was reading mostly non-fiction, like biographies, autobiographies, and also books on certain topics. Fiction, I always thought it was like a waste of time. But then I remember reading East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Oh my God. That was I think from that novel I realized that all the things that I was reading in a spiritual book, I can actually find it in the characters in the book. I can find it in a sentence just out of nowhere. And this was also the time when I started to see, because I was partly, acting in commercials and doing some modeling, and I saw that I could see the act of meditation in my photographers, cameraman, director, in my dentist, in every field that I observed in the fiction works, that I could see that anything that is done with complete absorption is just like meditation. And I had such a regard for people who had any remote business with spirituality, but they were really good at their thing and they really engaged with that. So then started the journey with fiction. And then I read, as I mentioned in the last video, I read a lot of Russian literature. I still do. One of my favorites, Dostoevsky. I think the first novel I read from Dostoevsky was The Notes from the Underground. And I'll tell you my relationship with Dostoevsky, and I think many authors would agree, and many readers would agree, is that when you really think that you have reached the end of a thought process, you find new thoughts coming out from there that you thought you've hit a wall, but then you can go on and on and on. And also another thing that I liked from Dostoevsky's work is that he will make you feel so sympathized with one character and with his line of reasoning or her line of reasoning, and then you will be almost getting to a point to agree with it, where he will just flip the argument and make you feel so bad about agreeing to what you just agreed. And while you're about to feel too bad about it, he'll take you back from there and make you feel decent about it. So I was just so thrilled by all this gymnastics that I could do with my mind, with my psychology, with my perceptions. Also, when you're dealing with a lot of problems in your life, you don't have really people who could give you perspectives. Books, authors, ancient peoples, ancient friends, they could give you those perspectives. Another author that comes to my mind, when I say Dostoevsky, just add 10 more from those similar times in Russia. Then there is Fernando Pessoa from Portugal. His writing is such a journalistic writing, and it's so pessimistic, so negative, that it's positive for me. It's so given up and imaginative, because he thinks that it's better to dream than to live, because this living is just a horrible reality, but in dream you can conjure up new realities. Anyway, it has its flavor. It gives you a different perspective. It broadens your horizon, opens your mind, and it gives you more and more tolerance, because you can understand people. You don't have to agree with them, but you can understand why they are the way they are, why they think the way they think, and so on and so forth. Although I've known some people who perhaps read more than I do, but this is maybe lack of understanding, my own blind spot, or maybe just a raw observation, that for me, every time I read a book, every time I read a paragraph, I'm not a fast reader, I take my sweet time with books. Every time it changes my life completely. I cannot help but feel like a shift happening in me. While I know some people who have profound knowledge or information from all these books, but just stays in their head. It doesn't really change their character much. It doesn't really help them with their anxiety or stress or whatnot. Like I read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse also in my early 20s. I think my life changed. This whole equanimity business, I just got it from reading that book. And I understood that being equanimous is such a strong thing. And that became kind of my driving force, that okay, I want to remain equanimous in the face of loss and profit. As simple as that. Why not? It just was so appealing, and immediately it worked for me. So again, comment on that. Tell me, what's your relationship with books? Does it really drastically change you, or is it just something that remains separate from you and it just like remains in a corner of your consciousness and doesn't really become or transforms the whole consciousness? Okay, have I spoken too much? Maybe yes, maybe no. Have I spoken with a structure? Maybe yes, maybe no. But who cares, right? So anyway, enjoy reading, and I would love to know what you're reading currently. So it can be any field and any genre. Write in your comments, what would you suggest others, because you know how beautiful our comment section is. So enjoy the videos, always read comments from there, and go on talking to each other about books, and I will watch you and participate, and maybe I'll find something interesting to read. And before I leave, I reread books, because at some point in life you need to stop being scattered like this, and you know like 100 authors, but you don't know really one deeply. And I started going this way, deep. So I would read at least 5, 6 or 10 books from an author. Then I would read journals of the author. I would like to really I'd begin to think like that author. My writing in my journal looks like Pessoa sometimes, looks like Dostoevsky sometimes, and looks like Chekhov sometimes. So I allow it to really work through me and change me in a way. And then I move on to something else. So read slowly, take your time, go deep into it, to really enjoy it, because it's not for somebody else. It's not to show off. It's not to impress somebody. It's not to tell people how much you know and how many books you have read. It's to get to the place where it's not an effort anymore. It's your utmost pleasure. And then once you do it, and if you have done it, please tell me if your relationship with loneliness changes. All right, then I will leave you, and before I do, as a ritual, let me show you how my rooftop looks today. My goodness, this is just so beautiful. I think, what do you think? This could be the thumbnail. All right. After so many days, we see the blue sky. All right. Take good care of yourself. See you soon.